how's that relatable for my viewers and listeners who might be thinking, well, I don't know if a wealth tax affects me. What does it mean?
Yeah, so a wealth tax would be looking at your total assets, probably including your house, any savings you've got. Difficult to measure exactly how much stuff you've got, but the idea would be, let's say you've got £1 million worth of stuff, a house, some savings and all the rest of it.
Even a car? Would a
car, you potentially count everything in. I mean, damn difficult to measure. And then you say, right, well, we are going to want to confiscate, let's say, 1% of that per year. Now, we don't know whether the government will do this. We don't know how wealthy you'd have to be before they came after you. I think Neil Kinnock was suggesting a tax of 2% on anything above 10 million. So that would only hit the rich, the very rich. Not many people have got 10 million.
Yeah.
But it would be a disaster. Virtually every European country that has tried this has ended up scrapping it because you need the ultra-rich to stay in Britain and come to Britain. And we need more people who are worth £10 million coming here, whereas at the moment, millionaires are fleeing.
We also need people to feel as though maybe one day they could make 10 million.
Exactly. You need aspiration and all of the rest of it. So the problem that's happening at the moment, and I would say the Labour government has doubled down on it, but the drift happened to some degree under the Conservatives, is we are throwing more and more money at the unproductive side of the economy, people on benefits, people working in the public sector, which has had a productivity crisis. The NHS is now 10% less productive than it was 15 years ago. And we're paying for all of that unproductive activity by hitting the productive side of the economy harder and harder and harder. That is the route to terminal decline. The finances of Britain are unsustainable and eventually they won't be sustained.
Right, well, there you go. And this brings us on to what's on one of the stories anyway on the front of the Daily Telegraph tomorrow, proof that benefits pays more than a full-time job. So the jobless and people on sick benefits will soon receive £2,500 more a year than a minimum wage worker. That is really astonishing.
It is astonishing and disastrous because what happens is people respond to incentives, Patrick, right? So if you're thinking, look, you know, I'm quite low down on the career ladder, but I'm willing to put in a hard shift. You know, I'll try and work my way up. But then you realise you could make more by not lifting a finger, not getting off your couch. Which option are you going to choose? And obviously, a very large number of people will choose the softer, cushy option. So we are well back into the scenario of making welfare not a kind of you know, a sort of safety blanket. I mean, we made it a way of life. It's not just a bounce back. It's a kind of, do you want that life? And we've now got in the UK potentially getting to the sort of third generation of people who have been in workless households. Just the idea of having a job has just become alien in a whole range of households. We've got to actually get back, I think, to the principles of the welfare state when it was founded, that the support should be at subsistence levels and it should be temporary.
And I wonder whether or not the government hasn't accounted for a major psychological shift in Britain, where previously, maybe, a lot of people felt as though that the upper middle class and the upper class should possibly pay a bit more tax to help out people who were struggling at the bottom. But now, the point is that so many people at the bottom who don't want to get off their backsides and do stuff, that you can earn more not doing anything than you can if you bother to go out and break a sweat every now and again. Then actually, I think that there are people out there now who are not upper middle class and who are not wealthy that don't think that those people who've gone out and earned a bit of money should be paying more tax for those people, because it doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And our tax system has become what's called more and more progressive. We've been taking more and more chunks from the rich and the successful, who obviously should pay a reasonable share. But it's now the top 1% of income tax earners now contribute nearly 30% of income tax. Imagine if that top 1%, I'm not saying this would happen overnight, but imagine if that top 1% say, I've had enough of this, I'm off. I'm moving to the States, or I'm retiring early, or I'm going to Singapore or Dubai. That's a 30% of all income tax receipts disappear overnight. So you can only pluck enough feathers off this before the goose that lays the golden egg starts screaming. And I would think those high-earning people are beginning to scream.